While we still don't have any time frame of when we'll be getting more Doctor Who or who the collaboration partners will be, we now have an actual quote from the BBC talking about the fact that they are reaffirming their commitment to the brand and that no matter what happens with distribution partners and specifically Disney, it will be back on the BBC. Let's talk about it. Hello, welcome to Culture Filter. I'm Phil and this is where I talk about all the geeky pop culture that I like and consume. Things like the MCU, things like Star Trek, things like Doctor Who. So if you like any of that sort of stuff, do click subscribe down below for more news videos like this one or lore videos and reviews and all that sort of stuff. And just generally my thoughts on things. Now, let's talk about this bit of news, because at the moment, the Edinburgh TV Festival, I believe, is still in full swing, I think, or it's just ended, one of those two. This is an annual festival that happens that festival of television where industry people go up and they do talks and all sorts of things happen up in Edinburgh at this time. There's lots of networking goes on. There's presentations, there's talks, there's lectures, all this sort of stuff. And in one of those talks, the BBC's new Chief Content Officer, Kate Phillips, reaffirmed the corporation's commitment to the show, and specifically said that the show would remain on the BBC with or without Disney. According to this article I'm reading in the Metro, she told the crowd, "Any Whovians out there, rest assured, Doctor Who is going nowhere." Specifically about Disney, her words were, "Disney has been a great partnership and it continues with The War Between the Land and the Sea," which obviously is still coming out next year. So that confirms that we're getting that in 2026 and not 2025 as previously probably planned, but also thought by most of us. It was in some kind of autumn reel of stuff coming up for the autumn. It was included, clips of it were included. So obviously it's been pushed back at some point, but now it's coming next year. But she also says, but going forward, with or without Disney, Doctor Who will still be on the BBC. The TARDIS is going nowhere, she says. Also elsewhere, the director of BBC Drama, Lindsay Salt, confirmed that there's no specific update on when we'll be seeing Doctor Who again, but the BBC will always stay committed to the series. Now, this is news only really in the sense that some people from the BBC have now said it out loud, but really, anybody with any kind of sense was thinking this is probably the case anyway, right? Yes, there might be a little bit of an extended break in terms of like while they sort out what they're doing next, in terms of negotiating with distribution partners or whatever that might cause a somewhat small break, maybe an 18-month to 2-year period where we don't get anything on air because of the time it will take to ramp up production again. But common sense said that Doctor Who was always going to return to the BBC sooner rather than later. We're not going to have another wilderness years right now because the property, the brand, the IP, the intellectual property, it's one of the biggest the BBC has, and that's not going to change. They don't have anything coming up to sort of take its place in terms of the value that the brand has to the BBC. So they're always wanting to exploit that IP in some way, and the best way to do that is to have episodes on screen. So they will always be looking to do the next episode and bring about the next episode. We're not in the 80s where the people at the top hate the show and think it shouldn't be on the BBC. We're at the point where even if they don't think it's working right now, they will be looking, okay, what do we need to change to make it work and get it back on air as soon as possible? Because it would be madness not to be doing that. So yes, look, realistically there will be an extended break because we're not going to be getting a new season in April next year as was probably planned. Instead, we're going to be getting The War Between the Land and the Sea. But we could potentially have it by April 2027 if they get any new deals with any new distribution partners in place quite quickly, and therefore we kind of haven't had a break in Whoniverse content if you include The War Between the Land and the Sea. There would have been something every year, which is probably also why they've moved it into 2026, so that they can say that and not have had a break. It's not ideal, obviously, if we have no actual episode of Doctor Who in 2026. That means that will be the first time there is a calendar year without an episode of Doctor Who since 2004, and that's a long time. That's over 20 years. So I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we get at least a Christmas special Probably not this year, given the time frame, but at least in 2026. Maybe that's our very next episode. Who knows? What do you think about this? Are you happy that the BBC is affirming its commitment to the show, regardless of what happens with Disney, that they intend on making more episodes? I am happy about that. I am glad. What form that will take will be the case of much discussion, I'm sure, in the year or so to come while that's all arranged. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, what you want to see happen with the show when it does come back, and all that sort of stuff. I'll be back with more news very soon, maybe even some more Star Trek Doctor Who crossover news, because did you know that the TARDIS appeared in an episode of Star Trek recently? Check out this video on screen now to find out more.